Hello and welcome to the UbiPorts Q&A. This is now the 124th episode. We're getting closer to 150, and maybe we do something special then. Since
We should.
we should. But today with me I have Alfred
Hello.
and Appley,
Hi.
and and so let's just go straight into the news. Do you want to take some news, Alfred?
Yeah, sure. So, well, maybe Marius should start with the roadmap. Actually, I'm doing the Uno reverse card right now. So,
Reverse. Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. So this week and also last week, I've been working pretty hard on a roadmap and also a high level roadmap. So with the high level roadmap, it's mostly saying what we should do in the next 3 to 4 months. And with this, we have decided to do a little bit different of a strategy where we will focus heavily on user experience and really nail down some of these annoying issues that really annoys people on a daily basis. And yeah, so some of these things is things that I collected from various people across the weeks. I asked the QA channel, the qual no the quality assurance channel, what they thought was the more important user experience issues that we had, and things that come up was HTTPS/GPS. This has been a blocker or an issue for a long time on Ubuntu Touch, since we have GPS working, but GPS takes a really long time to get enough signals from the satellites to give you a position. So with this, we need to implement something called AGPS or assisted GPS, which uses the location of the cell towers to triangulate the position of the user, and that should take within seconds. And assisted GPS will then keep on giving position until the real GPS takes over once that gets a fix. Other than that, other things that came up really heavily is Bluetooth audio or Bluetooth audio routing, and doing calls with Bluetooth, for example, or having Bluetooth in your car, having Bluetooth headset and making calls with that, and how the audio system should route the different audio through. That's something we want to look at. USB-C audio. This is something that become apparent. A lot of devices don't ship with a headphone jack anymore, and the only way to get that is either with Bluetooth or with USB-C. So that comes kind of hand in hand with the Bluetooth audio fix, but also fixing the actual USB-C audio out. On focal, all these are focal, by the way, but the one issue that is really annoying on focal is the intermittent cellular network issues that comes when you change between different cell towers in some cell tower providers, especially those that rely on two different networks, which for example, here in Norway, we have one carrier which owns its own network, but also rents its network when it doesn't have coverage for its own. So that has been a real problem where it drops the network issue and you need to turn it off and on the network toggle to get network again. Also, is cell broadcast, where it should give you alerts, especially danger alerts and things like that on your phone. This is something that really should be fixed. It's a high priority. And also regression, fix all the regression, at least identify them and see if we can fix them, the regression from serial to focal. This should also be a high priority. Most of these probably are fixed with moving stuff from Xenial over to Focal. Maybe things that we forgot to pull over from Xenial. And that's really something that we should focus on.
Well, I will take over in the meantime. So, well, for the user experience part, the seems like backup and restore and 5G support are in for the more or less nice to have things, but less important right now. But there's also some Snap support in there, I see, that has been talked
Yeah.
about. So I was happy to get some of the Snap stuff working. In fact, it is now possible, should you, mind you, should you decide to mount your system read-writable, which we can't guarantee anything for anymore, and you're on your own, you can enable Snap support. And that allows you to get some like command line tools like LXD for container support, and even like graphical application support in the form of, for example, what's it called again? Workshops, right? Workshops, which allows to spawn sort of like many different variations of Linux distributions inside of a container and making those work with a graphical like terminal. That's pretty cool. And I see in the in the comments on YouTube right now, what about Snap inside of Libertine containers? That's not probably gonna be a thing. That's like nesting too much or whatever. But it's certainly supposed to be used from the host side, and for that we had to change up a few things for Snap support so that the application data and applications themselves are preserved across flashes, that you don't lose them, and that you don't need to rewrite your rootfs all the time. So in that case, it is something that will probably come. And I've also seen something in the comments about how about Snaps replacing the click support. Probably not, if at least in the short term. Not sure about the mid or long term here. And Snaps replacing Libertine, I personally would have liked to see that too, in some way, shape, or form. But there are some certain things about Libertine that we need at the moment to stay feature complete. So yeah, but yeah, let's go ahead with the news, I would say.
Yeah. I will
Yep.
take the part for the community management, and that's why I'm here, because as you know, I'm mostly involved in the forum for now, and we would like to resume the bi-weekly Q&As. So thank you, Alfred, for the motivation, and Marius for being here too. And I think we can achieve something, because yeah, the team is working great and going forward. So I think that will be great. The goal is to create some more excitement about the development, trying to bring back some developers, because I think at the beginning we hoped that project like with the Volaphone or other projects like the PinePhone, we will bring some more attraction from developers, and that was not the case. And maybe talking here about some technical issues and how you can join and help, and maybe some deep dives on technical issues that can bring some people more involved. And so yeah, basically we would like to lend a hand to the community to bring them on board and try to improve that. There's another point about actively following up on the merge requests, and maybe I can help too. I didn't know about this point earlier, but maybe I can manage to find some time, because yeah, I have professionally a lot on my plate, but I want to get more involved also in the community, and I think it will be great.
Definitely.
So I will continue on some of the things that are also on the roadmap, which is something we call pre-20 2004, no, 2404 tasks that needs to be done. These are, for example, mostly infrastructure of, well, not mostly, all of them are infrastructure based ones and needs to be done to be able to prepare for us to move to the next LTS. We want to move to that LTS as fast as possible. And since we have now every single package except some of these really Android specific packages already in Debian, which means they will be on Ubuntu by then the building of the new base should be a lot easier. And since we already migrated to systemd and all these, moving the next base should be a matter of trying to build those on top of the new base, and it should just work. There shouldn't be any big tax to move that anymore. And also we want to decouple the upstream tasks, or decouple some of these user experience issues from the dist upgrade thing, so we don't block each other. So 2404 will happen in parallel, but they won't block each other with the other things we want to do.
Yeah. So I think we should go over to the developments of a few people in the community that have popped up, and especially those who regularly join the development sync. There are a few interesting tidbits here, a few interesting notes that we have. Something from Rachanan, for example, the release process of Ubuntu Touch and how to adjust and implement it with the new versioning scheme that we're going with. We want to finalize behavior changes, or at least he proposed finalizing behavior changes in Content Hub's client-server API, upgrading Qt Web Engine to 5.15.15. Wow, so many fives in there, which fixes the CVE. And also interesting for me personally is the Bengali layout changes in Lamiri keyboard that are going in. So new keyboard layout is great in my book, if I might say so myself. Working on Ayatana indicator power, and also having some Q menu model plus GTK patches that needs to be tested. Marius, which seems to be gone at the moment, has already mentioned what he has been working on most of the time. Jami also worked on a few things that includes like fixing the VNC input crashes in Mir VNC server on the Vola X23, and also some Vola specific changes that he was working on. And Nikita, for example, has continued work on Pulse Audio module Droid for detecting the headset jack, updating libhybris for newer lib hardware composer 2 compat layer, and helping a few people in the community, as we all know. Great work, and glad that we have that guy in the team, because porting wouldn't be the same without him. And yeah, there's also some from me that was like from 2 weeks ago. The snap stuff that I already mentioned. I also finished my EtherCast work, so Jingpad is now released with EtherCast support enabled, so that wireless display to or wireless extended monitor to Miracast adapter works perfectly fine. I haven't had much of a complaint here, other than some incompatibilities with a few devices, but overall, it seems to work pretty well. And I've also upstreamed some Waydroid changes so that scheduler tuning that we showed last time that was improving the performance by 10 times, so that those would not be disabled anymore when Waydroid starts up, so that the performance stays up and everything keeps working perfectly fluid. So those are a few of the things that have happened over the past 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, I guess. And maybe we should go over to the sponsors now.
You didn't want to talk about the sponsor, the Ubuntu Summit?
Oh, right. I'm not sure. It's my talk. I have a talk queued up at the Ubuntu Summit. So for everyone interested in that, let me give you a few hints. It involves 2 tablets, one that I've already mentioned, one that I'm probably going to mention later on if time permits, and making Linux software work, or making it use in a work setting, using those for working on Linux applications, basically. So yeah, that's a little. I want to keep it a secret for now. Let's see what happens when I get the chance to talk about it. Maybe I will drop the bomb earlier. I don't know. But
if people can come to the summit, maybe they will see you live and can ask a direct question after.
Exactly, yes, and it will also be live streamed on YouTube. I suppose, as if things repeat like last year, they will be live streamed to YouTube, and I believe Twitch, where they streamed it last time as well. So yeah, it will be very interesting. I will try to make it as enjoyable as possible for everyone who joins. So let's see what happens. Yeah.
I saw your talk on the last FOSDEM and it was great, so I think it will be great too. And I hope I can make it to the Ubuntu Summit. Not sure, but I hope so.
For those who want to join, it's in Latvia. It's in Riga. And it's sometime around the 5th of November. Maybe I should check up real quick where the. Oh well, we will make sure to drop some information about the Ubuntu Summit as quickly as possible after the video drops on YouTube, in the description. But there is a possibility to join like personally, and an opportunity to join remote as well, as we mentioned. So I would gladly have a few people around who I want, like, from the community, who have seen from afar for so long and want to get to meet every one of you. And I hope the same counts for you as well. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, 3 to 5 Novembers, and
okay,
we'll see.
So
it's time to thank our sponsors.
Exactly. You want to take the shot of mispronouncing the name?
I will try to not butcher everyone's names. So we would like to thank Heather Ellsworth, Christian Jolk, Rondarius, Spendios, PK, Kenneth Drew, Daniel Frances, Robin Hood, A. Taffitson, Gardner and Associate Consulting Incorporated, Tixia, I think it's the city, JT, and Will Atwood. Yeah.
So if you want us to mispronounce your name as well, then make sure to go to the sponsors level of the Patreon page, and make sure to help out the community and make sure that we can keep this thing around for as long as possible.
Yeah. And you can also go to, I think it's Ubuntu Dash.
There's probably
donate, I think. UbuntuTouch.io, I think, /donate.
We're out of shape. Just excuses if it takes us.
It's been too long. Marius, where were you?
It's been some time. We have to get used to doing Q&As again.
We butchered the name, and do you know the URL to the donation page?
Is ureports.com/donate.
Yes, thanks, Marius.
You're the guy.
Okay, so with that out of the way, I guess we can jump over to some questions now. We take these questions from the forums every time before the Q&A starts, so roughly 5 to 7 days before the Q&A starts. And we have a bunch of questions now, so let's start with the one from LNG. Marius, you want to take that one?
I can take another one. Yes. So Alan, this time is wondering, what's the state of Lumira desktop environment on the upcoming release of Ubuntu 23.10? So it's bit. I would say it depends on the user. It's I always say that. Like for me, I use it as a daily driver. It crashes a lot, and it's quite fun to lose your work a lot. So it's not something that I recommend using daily driver yet. Even though I do it, mostly for dog fooding. I wouldn't say it's in a usable state yet. Well, it is in a usable state, but not in a daily driver state. So it works, it starts, and it performs really well. It runs really well. It just mixing a lot of the pieces for getting up. There is some bugs there that needs to be fixed to be able to use it as a daily driver. So it's a bit of yeah. It
It's a
works for
mixed
some,
bag.
but for most not. It's a mixed bag, yes.
Yeah. But I've tried it with 2304 on my MacBook when it was running acai flavored Ubuntu, and it was flying. You don't even know how quickly it ran through everything that I was throwing at it. There were some bugs, as Marius also said, but for example, the Firefox one, I believe you fixed that one with the subsurfaces, right?
Yes, I did fix it, but the code is horrible, to say it at least. Yeah, but yeah, the only thing is that it doesn't cache any of the values at all. It doesn't cache any buffers. So
Ah,
it performance wise, it could be a lot better for desktop. It doesn't really matter in my
mm,
opinion. But it should be fixed before it's in production code. But
right,
once that the software process and all that are in, it should work pretty well. Yeah,
right.
that's
Yeah. I mean, I personally liked when I was playing around with it, and it it's not daily driver ready for me, but I hope to improve the situation also when I get the chance to do something with that on my devices as well. So yeah.
yeah.
The next question.
I would take that. It's from Kedem. He asks, they asks, is the goal to eventually make it usable like on desktop, or will it forever be break your UT territory? Yeah, it will be the last. Apt for phone is not a good idea. We prefer to focus on stability. That's why we roll up updates by just pushing images. And also apt with all its systems is not really reliable if you're on a mobile device, because if your connection is just lost, you will get into trouble. And it will be onto us to help the community to overcome those issues. And that's not something that anyone wants, because we don't have the manpower for it.
Right, I agree, and it's also like for the you have to imagine it the way that applications and the system, for whatever reason, in apt world, because that's how it grew, and people didn't know any better back then. They're at the same level. They're at the same. They're on by basically eye height or whatever how to say it, I don't know. They're at least they have the same privileges, and what we want to provide is a foundation, a layer of the system where applications can be put on top of. and that and the Snap system has very different goals in and of itself. So every packaging mechanism has its own benefits and drawbacks. But for us, it is important to provide a system that is providing one tested, well working together layer, and applications can be put on top of that, stacking them basically. Snaps are more like boxes next to each other. They all mostly have the same privileges, and the kernel is also just a snap and things like that. So, but apt is intertwining everything in itself. So that's making it hard. And when something is intertwined into something else, it's hard to pull it out again. We don't want that situation. We don't want to risk breaking devices just because apt sounds like a fun toy to play with, whereas we care about like production ready things.
Yeah. We often also have the question about Python, and I think it's the same issue. If one wants Python, let's say 3, another version of Python, then how do you manage those dependencies? And if you give the power to the user to install, let's say, Python 3, and another app you want to install with apt uses another version, then you will have some issues, and it will not be fun.
Exactly. And also, if someone wants to provide something Python-based, put it in a click package and put it in the store. Don't necessarily assume that just because we have a terminal pre-installed on the phone makes it the perfect hacking toy. You can do it, but for us, the priority is to provide a production quality operating system. And for that, we needed to make sure that like everything is in a click. Every application, at least, is in a click, and you can install things through that. Maybe things change up when Snap or Flatpak or whatever is integrated. Who knows? But for now, the situation is: please package everything up in a click. If you want to make an app with Python, for example, instead of installing it into the rootfs, the libraries that you want to depend on, just put them in a click and call it a day. It's so easy nowadays to put everything in a click, where I put a whole QEMU instance plus a graphical user interface around it in a click, and it builds from source, and it builds everything. I mean, it takes some time, but assuming you keep the cache around during development, it works pretty well, and there's not much to worry about. So it just needs rethinking of how to readapting to the situation that we're in, and that the operating system is built based on. Yeah, I think we should go over to the next question, and that one is from WBPKM. Would you consider only keeping Morph browser up to date on the Xenial, mainly Qt? ? No. We cannot keep the Morph browser up to date. Well, we could, in theory. Technically, anything is possible, probably, right? But resource management-wise, it's not easy to pull off. And with Xenial being frozen, that freeze is basically final. That would also sometimes, or what I also found in the questions post on the forums is keeping apps also up to date, or keeping Qt up to date, which is not going to work, because upgrading Qt and testing everything again against the newer Qt version, that's pain. That's unnecessary pain that we don't want to go through, that we don't have the resources and the time for. So in that sense, it only makes sense to go with what we have, which is Focal now, and making sure that Focal-based Ubuntu Touch goes further rather than going backwards in time just to satisfy those who don't want to upgrade just yet for whatever reason. That's called spreading yourselves too thin, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah. So I will take the next question here from this name. Qualex. Quailex.
Let's try.
Quailex. Something like that. um, what's the current progress of VLT? What about the VLT plan? So VLT is incredibly horrible thing in my opinion, technology wise. So technology wise, the main issue that we have is that um, all the binaries that is used to create VLT on Android is unfortunately written in Java. uh, so in newer version of of Android, they decided that hey, we can have a Java on the vendor side of things and the binary blobs. So that's what they did. So they have these Java services that talks in VLT.
And those and
And we
those services mostly are just doing in the background. At least they're not doing much more other than zip, and that is like
yeah,
wrapping zip in a lot of dirt to hide it in the woods or something like that.
something like that. Yeah, in essence, it's just a zip. The more problematic is the configuration and the talk between cell tower providers, and because it gives a special priority path in inside the, the network tube. I would say it's kind of weird how it's set up, and the most annoying part is that VoLTE is supposed to be a standard, but no one is really following the standard, and everyone is making their own standards. And this is especially apparent in countries where they don't really care that much, or countries that wants to push their own sort of boundaries, and some cell tower providers that ships their own type of phone, and you kind of have to buy their phone to make it work best in their environment. uh, this is especially for some US networks. This is true for, like, I think AT&T. You have it's best if you buy the AT&T provider phones because they have provided something like that. I'm not quite sure about the US network, but that is a situation that we need to handle in some way or another. And since there is no real standardization here, this makes it really hard. And what we need to do then is to reuse some of the Android components, but we need to rewrite it in C++ or something like that. But we also need to communicate with the modem and radio uh, drivers in the phone. And these are luckily these are written in C++. We can use them, but everything is go through binder, but they're closed binders. So we need to reverse engineer the binders and everything. So that in to end my statement is that it is a huge amount of work that we need to do. There's a lot of black boxes we need to work around, and that's basically why this takes so long. If this were open API, like anything else that we use, like if it was just provided in the hall, this would be fine. But no, they had to make it hard.
Yeah, it's sort of like pain under the disguise of vendor freedom, so to say, so that every vendor can implement it
Yeah.
their own way.
Yeah, they usually don't, though. They all rely on the Qualcomm or MediaTek ones.
Right.
So the point is still a little bit useless, but they did it anyway.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, so that was voice over LTE. Next one is I really like this. A la girl, or something. Um, the question is Ubuntu like OS may be installed on any device? Question mark. So what a device needs to do, or someone needs to do this in order to have Ubuntu Touch on their device model, is provide a port for it. Some people call those people porters. I personally would prefer to call them system integrators, port maintainers, but in the end, someone needs to make it work and custom tailor Ubuntu Touch for that device, or the other way around, custom tailor that device for Ubuntu Touch and its environment. So we have porting documentation at docs.ubiports.com, and we have a pretty great, as I mentioned earlier, Telegram group for UbiPorts porting, especially, which is very active nowadays and growing, which I really like to see. I joined the porting group back then, and I really like seeing how it has progressed over the years, basically. So providing a port is key and crucial to making sure that Ubuntu Touch works in it, which involves some patches to Android or Halium side pieces sometimes, but also sometimes on the Ubuntu Touch side. So development knowledge is preferred, or it helps. If you don't have programming knowledge or history of doing programming, then people are still able to pull it off sometimes, and they should motivate you to also make it happen for you and for yourself and for those who also run those devices. And it shouldn't hold you back to accomplish the goal of running Ubuntu Touch on your device. So if anyone out there is interested and they are afraid of making sure that it works, please don't be afraid. It's just a learning curve that you can come over very easily if you just put your mind to it and get the thing rolling, right?
And also have some spare time, because it will take some time. Mostly trial and error. So you will have to try it, see the error, how to overcome this, go to the next step, and back again.
It should be a hobby that you enjoy doing, right? And I hope the people around also give the impression that it is a hobby worth pursuing and doing for yourself, and maybe doing it also for others, right?
So I will quickly just take one thing that I saw since we are on the topic of porting. RK asked, how stable is Halium 12 currently? Any plans for Halium 13? So I know that Halium 12 is used on developed phones. So that's definitely very stable. And same for Halium 13. I think Halium 13 is used on the Volophone 23X, if I'm not mistaken. So there is already work undergone on both those. And I think they are getting to a point where they are really stable now. Maybe Alfred knows.
Sorry, I was reading the comments right now, reading the chat on YouTube. What was the question again?
It was about the stability of Helium 12 and 13.
Yeah, Helium 13, I remember trying to play with it. I've also seen some people with the Fairphone 4, for example. Mohammed was working on that, making sure that it works on the Fairphone 4 already. Not saying that we're ever going to upgrade it. It was just the nearest device around to toy around with it. But in theory, it's already got somewhere so that we can make use of it in the future already. So it's going somewhere. And I like seeing Helium 13 popping up because there are so many things that are coming out now, new devices, new shiny devices, and we want to keep supporting new devices as well. So it's always this catch-up game, this cat and mouse game where one tries to catch the other, and one is running very fast and the other needs to keep up with this. I mean, Helium 7.1 was like 2-3 years late until it was perfected, and now we have ports popping up with pretty recent Halium in under a year, I would guess, which is still something, and it's still a delay there, but we're getting there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think most of that also it comes in hand with what Google did with Project Rebel, but also the binarization of everything, where
Yeah, the
it
binary the binarization thing though is a two-edged sword, because first of
yeah
all there was Heidel, and now there is idle for everything, AIDL, and we would have to rework a few things for sensors, for example, so that sensors keep working properly, or other hardware specific services that are running inside of the Halium container. We need to make sure that those work across the board, and rewriting everything is not fun. Again and again and again, like it happens
yeah
to be the case with Android-based Halium, for example. But yeah, it's still interesting to see the progress that has been made over the years with Halium and getting it up to a recent state very quickly, compared to what we had to do and hack through in the past. And it's also not only the workload, it's also the best practices. So there are new best practices, and those parts really were missing next to the documentation. But the best
yeah
practices and the documentation, and the way that we do things nowadays, they have changed, and you have to adapt to them. The best case scenario is you just go to the porting group and ask, and make sure that it works for you.
I really hope Google doesn't change it again now because
Yeah.
they like to change every other release. Probably next release they're gonna go to Bidle.
Which used to be my previous username. I'm not gonna say what it means now, okay?
No, I was just meaning be Heidel, be Bidle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bad joke in there.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, let's continue before my humor infects everyone. So this one, what is the current? This is from Fair Rose, oh, Fair
Yeah, right.
Rose, I guess. Fair. What is the current state of the Fairphone 4 with pre-installed Ubuntu Touch? In the Q&A 122, it was mentioned that there are tests that needs to be passed first. Is there still plan to sell these? If so, are there an expected date? So there are still plans to make this happen. It might not be Fairphone 4 anymore. It might be 5 that we push it to. But one of the things that we were missing was, for example, LTE and 5G. Speaking about 5G, I got it working. So I wanted to do a live demo here, but my phone didn't agree with me before the live stream. So I promise I promise a live demo on next Q&A. So if you want to see 5G working, maybe it is already in devil by then if everything goes smooth sailing. But
You know you're recorded because people will take you up to these words.
yeah, I know. But I promise for next one I will show a demo of this. So we have 5G, and VoLTE is coming. So those are the things that kind of are missing because they are kind of trivial on having on especially on 5G it's not the biggest one, but VoLTE it really needs to. I love the comment. Next Q&A will be in 2025. Yeah. No, so the thing that really for EU Right now, it's fine to not have OLT, but especially in other countries, OLT is essential. And I know that EU is also planning to shut down 2G at some point. So we need to really fix that. And I see that people are asking about OLT a lot here. So
Doggo, I hear a doggo. So
there
I
is a
think
dog here, yes.
I think we should jump over to the next question now, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
So Rocket to Infinity was asking, SIP support in the dialer, is that possible? Or SIP apps with working push notifications? This is becoming very important to users in North America and some other regions, and is an excellent workaround for the ever troublesome voice over LTE issue. So, I mean, it's not only a good workaround, it's also a good other option in case you don't want to take the regular provider type of deal with like voice over LTE, but you want SIP numbers to work. I mean, in theory, the dialer has something with that. I have read has some code in there that would be able to be hooked into, but it's nowhere finalized whatsoever. Not even remotely. I would say. Um, but nothing is holding us back from having that, and it only needs someone to work on it. So SIP applications with working push notifications would sound like a solution, but the push notifications mostly are server bound, so that's what a push notification is, right? So um, it would mean that some push listener is going through the server, I suppose, or getting messages from push server. And I don't think that we have any application that does that at the moment, and would also sound like jumping through hoops just to get the call notification up there. But I personally have, for other purposes, also worked with a SIP library on Linux, and it happens to work on Ubuntu Touch as well. So it is doable. It just needs someone with a dedicated time to do it. And yeah, there's not much we can do here. Next question. Who wants to take the next one? It's from Christian.
Yeah, I cannot answer it, but I can ask the question for this.
Yeah, sure.
So Christian, I don't know his last name, it's complicated, asks on the chat, if we develop Ubuntu Touch apps, can we develop Ubuntu Touch apps with Rust frameworks, like Iced, Dioxus, or Tori? Alfred, it would be you because Marcus just left.
I'm thinking, look, in theory, many things are possible. The only thing you have to ask yourself is, how do I integrate it into the existing system that we already have? And that system mainly requires you to have some certain understanding about QML, or for example, the content hub, how to pull data out of another application, or how to push data to another application, how to make it work with other applications on the system, instead of it being this own little, like, I don't want to play with anyone and stay like child that sits in the sandbox and doesn't want to communicate with the rest of the system. For example, you would not be able to pull in data from the file picker, for example, from documents, other than integrating it properly and making sure that it works across the board. And it doesn't sound like the intent is there yet, but it could, of course. Again, technically, a lot of things can work. It just needs someone to work on it. And right now, the answer is no. We don't have anything other than maybe adding QML Rust bindings, for example, so that you can start a Qt QML engine inside of a Rust process, and making it interrupt with the C++ types that are required sometimes to make those applications work. And Rust itself is a fun language, and it's it's certainly getting more and more wind behind its back, and people want to do it. And I see in the chat we already have two working Qt QML integrations for Rust, so I don't really see much of a benefit here. If you don't want the application to look like a native app, then you can take the others, but they won't integrate properly. And if you want to integrate the application with Rust in mind properly into the system, Qt QML is still the way to go. And yeah, I think that basically answers the question.
Well, I'll add just that. Yeah, Ubuntu Touch is mainly for the user a desktop environment, so it's all graphical. So if we don't play with the same toys, with the same bricks, we cannot have something consistent throughout the operating system. So yeah, basically, if you don't like Lomiri, Ubuntu Touch is not for you. Because yeah, mostly it's Lomiri, and everything below that is just heritage from the mainline Ubuntu, and then trying to make something work with the hardware. That's the difficult part, talking to the hardware, because everything else is yeah, simple enough, I guess. So yeah, if you don't like the GUI, then it will be difficult.
I like your consistency point there, because it's something that people, they want all the applications that have ever been released on any platform possible, but then it doesn't look coherent, and the end result to a user with a different taste who expects the things to work the same across the board, because it's a human thing to have some relatability. Oh, application XYZ works that way. It has a back button there. It has a bottom edge gesture, and all of a sudden you have a GTK or a Rust, what's it, iced whatever application running on it, and it behaves completely differently. That would put a lot of effort onto the app developer's part to make sure that it works properly, and many people just don't want to focus on that, which is why Android and Apple platforms have those consistency human interface guidelines, and they provide one toolkit, or at maximum two, as is the case with Apple. They provide application toolkit, and everything builds on top of that, and that's just the way to go. And if you want to do something different, you are on your own, because you can't expect us to basically do the work for you, especially if you don't know what the goal, or what the end goal is. Yeah,
I think it answers it.
yeah.
I will just pick one question that I saw briefly in the chat here, because I was talking about Norwegian bank ID. So the situation there with the Norwegian bank ID, to answer that, is that recently they deprecated the SIM toolkit one, which means that it's no longer vendor neutral. They went over to an app based, which they provide an Android app and an iOS app. So that's kind of sad, in the way that now everything is tied to the operating system. Before it wasn't, because they used SIM toolkit, and SIM toolkit was vendor neutral, and it could show on Ubuntu Touch. They even had all the code written for that, but right when I wanted to launch it, they deprecated it, and now it's gone. So that's really annoying. So the situation there is probably we need to use Waydroid. It's what I use apparently. Actually, I use Waydroid, and the Bank ID, Bank IDA app works perfectly there. So that's my. Or someone need to re-engineer it, or reverse engineer the Bank ID app and create one in. in
I think this will become a more global issue in the near future because many countries tend to go to an app-based security because it's you know that SMS can be hacked, but you need a lot of money to pull those hacks because you need a fake tower a fake cell phone tower to relay the SMS to just snoop the message, and that's not easy feat. So yeah, many countries push towards the app security, and apps use also the hardware integrated in the cell phone now, and that can be tricky for Ubuntu Touch in the future, I guess. Because you will have bloats firmware dealing with this security item, and for security reason, they won't allow everyone to have the source or the API to talk to these devices, and I think it can be problematic in the near future. But I hope it will be possible to overcome this and still use hardware encryption to just access those things and use it with Droid or another program to help us with that.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Yeah, I think what's really troubling about this is that you're now at this point required to some degree to have an Android or iOS device, and you are really locked into those systems. There's no vendor neutral anymore. That's why I love Sim Toolkit and how that worked, but that didn't really take off. And it's sad that BunkID stopped supporting it. The reasons is I don't know. There was no good reasons, like actually from them. But their app now it doesn't use any hardware encryption or anything, so that's why it works on the Droid.
Yeah,
So it's even
I
less.
think at the moment most apps use just a TOTP or something like that.
So to some degree, it's even less secure now than it was with Sim Toolkit.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's the nature of the beast, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so we have something from Alfred he wants to show us.
Yes, please.
Showtime.
Yes. So I have showed last time the Tide project that I've started, and I want to mention it again because it would really help me out, and if you spread the word and let people know of it, and maybe enjoy it yourself, because there is something to be said about real development on a tablet device, doing actual application development as a professional tool. I try to provide Tide in this sense. So if let me see if I can share the screen here, because there we go. Is my screen shared? No. Can you see this?
It's blurred for the moment. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So we do have Tide here, which is my C++ development environment based on WebAssembly. And what it does is really great because now, as I've shown in the past, you can write code with it. For example, it also has this little autocomplete thing so that you can do lookups of various things that are related to the code. Autocomplete IntelliSense, as people used to call it. And also do auto formatting, because the formatting of the thing is really wrong, in my opinion. Now, I think it fixed. Yeah, it's fixed now. And what it also has is a debugger. And for that, I want to present this real quick. Oh, now I broke something. There we go. Can it build? It built. And we can debug the thing. So it stops at the breakpoint. It shows various information about all the objects and variables that are allocated and that are available inside of the frame. You can step over, step out of things. You can see the values as I mentioned earlier. You can continue the run, and you can stop the execution as well without it crashing under you as it happened to do in the past. But there are also some new examples for the 1.3.0 release that I put out earlier this week. And it also includes some examples on how to do threading, on how to use YAML and JSON. It also shows how to do socket communication somewhere. If I put it there, I don't know where it is. Oh, socket example, there it is. As if you're a C++ developer familiar with QMake, you will see that this project format looks very similar because it started out as a simple wannabe parser for it. And you can also run this to get some basic HTTP and maybe even HTTPS using OpenSSL going. And yeah, I mean, that's basically what I have been working on over the last few months. For example, also there is a global or project global search and replace here, so that you can search and replace every string that you put in the search field and replace it with something else. Closing that one. And it's also capable of running inside of phone mode. So seems familiar to someone. The C word, the convergence word we used to use, sounds familiar, looks familiar, because I was very interested in making sure that it works also on those types of devices with smaller screen real estate. But it all works pretty well. And there we go. Just wanted to demonstrate this real quick, what it looks like now. And if we can basically get this to a spot where it gets more performant, it gets more features. I'm already asking actively on X right now, on X.com, what the most preferred things about it are, what the future should bring. And yeah, just wanted to let you know this. If you want to support me, because I'm not sponsored by the foundation, if you want to sponsor me, this is one way to do it. And yeah, I think Marius wanted to say something now.
Yeah, you said the feature that you want. I want one feature: Ubuntu Touch support.
Of course. So I have actually, in fact, today worked on POSIX, so other Unix-like platforms support, and it builds. So if you fetch the code from GitHub, it builds successfully and it runs to a certain extent, but it doesn't compile anything yet. It needs to be hooked up properly. It needs to be integrated well into the file picker that we want to choose the projects with. And so in theory, the basic building blocks are there. The basic foundation is there. It just needs someone to implement it. And as you've noticed, it is something that I would like to get sponsoring through. I will have to focus on platforms that are more like that have a paid app store or whatever means of making sure that it actually is usable. There are two interesting questions that I found here in live chat. Being WebAssembly, how does it deal with libraries? You can build libraries yourself, and there are some libraries pre-shipped with it. So libyaml, JSON-C, or whatever. Then OpenSSL, Boost, the standard library, and a little that's about it. That's pretty much the most important libraries that it currently ships. But you can also build them yourself and link against them. It's all statically linked, as WebAssembly currently still has most of the things statically linked instead of dynamic linking. And yeah, the second question is, how do we support Alfred? And in this case, one of them is through PayPal. Maybe you want to check out my Twitter/X profile, because I have it. Oh no, I don't have it pinned there. It's paypal.me/Beidl, Beidl. And If you want to donate to me through that, then please go ahead and do so. I would really appreciate it.
Yes, do that. I highly recommend it. It's satisfying to do so.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. It's satisfying for me also.
Satisfaction guaranteed.
All right.
Okay. Well, we are over the hour now, so I think this was a really good episode. And anyone else want to say something before we head off?
Nuggets.
Nuggets.
I
Okay.
like
Nothing to add to that.
Yeah.
other than
Yeah. Let's
ketchup.
just we ended with that. We ended with nuggets, and see you next time.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
I,
Nuggets.